So, hey, welcome to the Success Achievers Club, where we help direct sellers and online social sellers level up on their online strategies. I'm Lynn Hubert,
And I'm Richard.
and this is Richard. So, let me share my screen. All right. So, welcome to week 4. Oh, something else coming up here. Sorry, you guys. Okay, I just had something like show up on my screen from the Zoom. Anyway, so welcome to week 4. So far we've talked about clearing the clutter to call in more and rewriting the rules around worth and building capacity to hold more. So today we're going to talk about calibrating to overflow energy. So let's begin by landing in the space together. So take a slow breath. Feel your body arrive. There's no rush, there's no pressure. This is a room of women who are done leading from depletion and who are choosing something radically different, overflow. Because here's the truth, abundance doesn't flow when you're trying to force it, it flows when you're full. And so today we're going to learn how to nourish your energy so that your content and your leadership and your results, they feel sustainable and magnetic and real. So, excuse me. So, if you've ever tried to create from a place of obligation, you already know it's exhausting, right? It can feel resentful, or maybe it's flat. And yet, so many of us build from that place because we've been taught to post even when we're not inspired, or launch even when we're burnt out, or say yes even when our body says no, or push through even when we're dry. But here's what you're going to start reclaiming today. The most magnetic version of you is not the one who pushes harder, it's the one that shows up from overflow. Overflow is not perfection. It's not constant energy or motivation. It's a state of alignment that comes from being nourished. So, today we're going to learn how to recognize the difference between overflow and obligation. We're going to create rituals that refill your energy instead of depleting it. And we're going to take action that's calibrated to the version of you who already lives in abundance. So, let's begin with a reflection. When you think about your business or leadership right now, where are you still operating from obligation? It could be a habit or a task or a tone in your content. And maybe it could be a yes that you should have said no to, right? So write it down or drop it in the chat. Would love to hear where you're still struggling with that. That's the thread that we're going to follow today, not to judge it, but to free it. Because when your energy shifts from outflow to overflow, everything you create or say and receive becomes easier, more magnetic, more true, and most importantly, it becomes sustainable. So let's go there. Let's unhook from obligation and calibrate to the version of you who creates, leads, and receives from a full cup. So we're going to start today by getting honest. Most of us were taught to build our lives and our businesses from obligation, from expectations, from logic, from performance, from survival, but rarely from overflow. Overflow is a frequency, not a reward. We've all been taught that when things overflow, that's more of a reward, right? But it's not what you get after you do enough. It's the state you choose to operate from when your nervous system feels safe, nourished, and deeply rooted in self trust. So, today we're going to explore how to stop pushing from depletion and start leading from the truth of your energy. So let's break this down. So, obligation energy sounds like I should post something, or I already said yes, so I have to do it, or they're expecting me to show up, or if I don't do this, I'll fall behind. Overflow energy sounds like this message wants to move through me. This offer feels like an extension of my truth. I'm not forcing anything, I'm responding to what's real. Or this gets to feel good and still work. So, can you feel the difference, right? Obligation is rooted in pressure, overflow is rooted in presence. When you're in obligation, you override your body, you disconnect from your yes, You suppress your natural rhythm, and eventually your creativity dries up. But when you're in overflow, you honor your energy. You trust the timing. You create from resonance, not resistance. And what you produce becomes magnetic, not because it's perfect, but because it's aligned. So let's name how obligation shows up in real time because it is subtle. So, depletion energy in content might look like posting out of guilt or schedule, not inspiration, or using language that sounds pushy or flat or overly convincing, or dreading the task but doing it anyway because you know you need to do it, right? Depletion energy in selling might sound like I have to explain why it's worth it. I don't want to lose momentum. No one's buying unless I keep pushing. Depletion energy in leadership or relationships might feel like being emotionally available for everyone but yourself. We're all guilty of that, probably, right? Saying yes because it's easier than setting a boundary, or offering support from a place of guilt or habit rather than just because you want to offer support. So take a moment and ask, where in your business or your life are you creating or serving from depletion, not desire? Write it down. And give you just a second to write that down. That's not a failure, it's just feedback. Your energy is letting you know that something is out of alignment, not forever, but just right now. So here's where I want to shift your relationship with overflow. We've been conditioned to see overflow as a luxury, something that happens once the work is done, once the launch is over, once the content is posted, once everyone else is taken care of. But overflow is not extra, it's the source. The universe provides. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. The universe provides, you guys. It's the source, it's in us, right? It's the well that you draw on when you show up to lead or create or receive. And when that well is dry, everything becomes harder than it needs to be. That's why today's work is about sparking overflow, not waiting for it to show up on its own. Because the woman who leads from overflow creates with clarity, receives with ease, sells from embodiment, sets boundaries without guilt, makes decisions from alignment, not urgency. That's not a fantasy, that's capacity plus calibration. So let's get practical. Overflow doesn't require hours of self care, it requires micro moments of reconnection. You just have to reconnect with your body, with your soul, right? So here's a few examples. So maybe a slow morning without your phone, or maybe breath work before opening your inbox, or embodied movement before creating content, saying no without an explanation, playing music while responding to emails, letting yourself eat, rest, or step outside before pushing to finish something. It's like taking that moment for yourself first before you rush to complete something, right? Those moments aren't distractions, they're anchors. They signal your nervous system. We don't have to push to be valuable. We're allowed to receive from joy, not just survival. So I want you to ask, what are the moments, rituals, or rhythms that actually spark your overflow? Write down two or three that you already know work for you and give you a minute to write that down. Now ask, where in your week are you overriding them because obligation got louder than your intuition? That's the pattern that we're going to rewire starting today. So the last piece is key. Overflow isn't just about feeling good. It's about becoming the version of you who naturally lives at the level that you're calling in. So ask yourself this: Is my future self, if my sorry, if my future self was leading my business today, how would she move? Would she rush through that sales page? Would she post something just to be consistent? Would she say yes to the call she didn't want to take? Would she prove her value or Trust that it's already clear. This is energetic calibration. This is where your present actions match the vibration of the woman you're becoming. Because your future self doesn't build from depletion, she builds from overflow, from presence, from truth. Let that be the energy that you begin to embody today. You don't need to do more to become magnetic. You need to protect your energy and create from a full cup. So let this land in your body. My energy is my strategy. When I lead from overflow, everything aligns. So let's move into today's somatic reset and embodiment practice. So this doesn't just live in your mind, but it settles in your body, in your nervous system. So let's move into today's reset. So overflow doesn't happen by accident. It's created on purpose, not through pushing harder, but through protecting your energy, not through proving, but through presence. This is your moment to check in, not with what you've done, but with how you're being. That's really important. It's your being. It's who you are. It's just you being here, right? Not with what you've accomplished. So grab your journal or worksheet, get grounded, and let's begin, okay? So let's start by naming where obligation has been running the show. So the first prompt I have for you is, where in your business or life are you still doing something from pressure, not presence? So think maybe content or selling or service or conversations or relationships. Write down 2 to 3 examples about where you're still doing something from pressure, not presence. I'll give you a minute. Now ask yourself, what's the energy beneath that action? Is it I should? Or is it they expect me to? Or is it if I don't, I'll fall behind? Or it could be any other one, right? But circle the one that feels loudest. Okay, so step 2 is define your overflow signature. So now we're going to connect with the energy of your overflow self, the woman who leads from enoughness. So now the next prompt is, when you felt most in overflow, what were you doing differently? What did your body feel like? What did your day look like? What were you creating or receiving from that space? Write down 2 to 3 qualities of how you show up when you're operating from overflow. We've all been there, we've done it. We might not have realized that that was what was happening, but there's days when it just feels like everything's coming together. That's what I'm talking about, right? That overflow, because it's just coming, it's just pouring into you. So, some of the examples of how you might have shown up during that time was clear or soft or focused or playful or embodied or magnetic or grounded. Grounded is a big one. So write down your quality that you feel when you're actually operating from overflow. So I'm going to give you a minute. Okay, and then what needs to be present in your life or your business for your overflow to return? This could be a ritual, a pleasure, maybe quietness, support, white space, movement, more honest expression. Write down 1 to 2 things. Sometimes it's just reconnecting with who you are, or it's connecting with music or movement, right? Or just being quiet and just getting centered on yourself. And then we're gonna choose a recalibration ritual. So this is where we make it real. So the next prompt I have for you, what is one small ritual or boundary that you can bring into your week to protect your energy and spark overflow? Examples might be taking a day offline after a launch. So you've done this big thing, you've launched something, a special or whatever. Now you're going to just take a day offline, right? You're not going to be online all day. Or maybe saying no to should content, stuff you think you should be doing instead of what you want to be doing, right? Spending 10 minutes each morning in silence. Dancing before you write. Sometimes dancing can help you connect with your inner self. right? Or creating from desire, not demand. So write it down. And then I want you to complete this sentence. This week, I protect my overflow by blank. That's your recalibration anchor. So go ahead and write that down. This week, what am I going to do to protect my overflow? Now close your eyes for a moment. Feel into the version of you who moves through her week from overflow. What does her energy feel like? What decisions does she make with ease? What does she not tolerate anymore? Let one word come through that represents her frequency. Write it down. This is who you're calibrating to now. Okay, so you've just named where obligation has been running your energy and what it looks like and feels like to return to overflow. Now it's time to speak it out loud, to name your recalibration and to be witnessed in it. This isn't about sharing perfectly, it's about anchoring through your voice, through presence, and through being supported by women who are doing this work with you. So here's a few prompts for you to think about sharing. And I'm going to ask you if you have something to say to please unmute, and I would love to hear it, right? But I'm going to give you these prompts first. So, where in your business or leadership have you been operating from obligation instead of overflow? So, maybe name the pattern or habit that's ready to shift. Or what's one overflow ritual, boundary, or rhythm that you're choosing to protect your energy this week? And what word or feeling represent the version of you who leads from overflow, not pressure? Let it be honest. Let it be simple. Let it be enough. We're not here to judge. We're not here to see if one person's better than the other. Every one of us is different. But so is there anyone that would like to share? Go ahead and unmute. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you don't want to talk out loud, go ahead and type it in the comments. So I'll give that just a minute. Okay, well, nobody wants to share, I guess. All right, so let's take a collective breath together. Just a moment to land, to soften, to allow everything that came up in that practice to settle in the body. Overflow doesn't ask for urgency, it invites presence. So, the final part of today's session is your space to receive coaching around anything that still feels sticky or unclear or unspoken. So, if you have something that you want to bring forward, maybe it could be a pattern of obligation that's hard to unhook from, or a resistance to protecting your energy, or a moment where your system still wants to push or perform. Maybe it's a recalibration ritual that feels edgy to hold, or a fear that shows up when you try to do less or receive more. Anybody want to begin? Go ahead and unmute if you have something you want to say. Or if you don't want to talk, go ahead and type it in the comments and we'd love to hear. Do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing right this moment.
No? Okay. All right. Well, let's see if anybody wants to say anything. Overflow doesn't always feel big. Sometimes it's just the decision not to abandon yourself. Pat, one thing I'm trying to remember to do is to take 10 deep breaths when I first sit at my desk before starting to work. Pat, that is so powerful. That really is, because I can see that you are connecting with yourself. Taking those 10 deep breaths, you're connecting with yourself before you sit down and go to work, and now you're present, right? That's powerful. I love that. And we sometimes we don't have to rush to the next step, right? Sometimes the shift is just letting yourself be seen without having to try harder. So this week, you're not being asked to do more. You're being invited to protect your energy so that everything you do flows from truth, not pressure. So here's what to focus on this week. So identify the obligation loop that you're releasing. Look back at your notes or reflections. Name the one action or behavior or habit that still feels like it's coming from depletion, not desire. So maybe some examples might be posting because you should, or saying yes when you mean no, or rushing through rest or over explaining your value. And I, just to clarify too, like when I said posting because you should, well, we obviously should post if we want to grow our business. That's part of our growing our business, right? But the difference is having something you really want to say or posting because you want to connect to somebody and you have something profound that you want to do, or just creating posts just to get them done and you're just slapping them out. There's a big difference there. Can you see that? That's where you're centered and where you're like coming from overflow rather than just doing something because you need to do it, right? So write it down clearly. I'm no longer available to blank from pressure. So you'll want to do that this week. And then you're going to anchor one overflow ritual. Choose one simple ritual that reconnects you to pleasure, presence, or nourishment. This is your new non-negotiable. Not because it's trendy, but because it restores your power. So maybe an example might be movement before content, or a no phone hour each morning, or saying not right now to draining asks, or a joy ritual before client sessions, or breathing before responding, or like Pat said, take 10 deep breaths before sitting down before getting to work. Those are all really good, right? So write it down and use it 3 to 4 times this week. Let that become part of your rhythm, not just recovery. And then we want to calibrate. Boy, this is just crazy with my phone today. I'm sorry. So now you want to calibrate your energy before you act. So this week, before posting or launching or replying or saying yes, just pause and ask, am I doing this from obligation or from overflow? If the answer is obligation or pressure, then pause for a minute, recenter, and respond from alignment. You're not here to prove, you're here to lead from wholeness, from truth, from overflow. So share your ritual recalibration or new overflow standard in the chat. Or if you want, you can unmute if you want to talk. All right. Well, okay. So overflow is not a reward for pushing through. It's the standard that you're building your business and your life from. You're not magnetic because of how hard you try. You're magnetic when you move from alignment, not urgency. When you let pleasure be the portal, when your presence leads the strategy. So here's the reframe I want you to hold. I don't need to do more to be effective. I just need to lead from the version of me who's already full. And then the last prompt I have here is, what's one word or phrase that captures the version of you who no longer leads from pressure, but from presence and overflow? Drop that in the chat if you have one, or write it in your journal. Let it become your energetic filter this week. Take one more breath and walk into the rest of your day like the woman who knows she doesn't need to chase what she can attract, and she attracts through overflow. Pat says tranquility. I love that. That is great. That's really great because that's exactly what's going to center you. Okay. So I just want to, that's what I have for you today, but something that's just kind of in my mind right now. I've been thinking about some of you, when you're watching people at your company conventions and they're walking across the stage because they're rock stars and they're doing all these wonderful, amazing things, they're not working harder. Have you ever looked at them and said, they're working way harder than me? They're really not. But it comes from the fact that they are working from overflow. And somehow you get there when you become super successful because I think because you had to have that ability in order to become successful. And that's why we're working on this because they are super successful because they've already experienced that success. And sometimes it comes in increments as you're growing, right? But they've already experienced it to the point where they don't have to fight to be successful. They already know they are. They already believe it. It's just something, it's not something that they're braggers about or that they think they're hot because of it. It's just an innate feeling of they already know they can be successful. They already know they can do it. And they are already coming from overflow and they're attracting it to them. I hope that makes sense. But if you watch those people, you'll see that. And that's exactly what we're striving to help you to come to through this 6-week course. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hope you found it valuable. Did you have anything?
I'm just kind of on that same topic she was talking. A lot of times I see people like that, and I really think it's because they put in the work, the time. They've created a habit, and they're so focused and laser focused on things that it's a natural progression to do the next step that they do. They've done something over and over and over again and gotten so focused that that's just the way you do it. We all have our little routines. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth or something like that. Some of them sound silly, but even in the business world, you have certain things that you do that just create that energy flowing through you, and it just starts to, a lot of times once you get in the groove, it's just amazing how you feel.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So they're not getting up in the morning going, oh crap, I gotta post this. Let me post it. They're not
Yeah.
doing that, right? Instead, they're getting up in the morning and they're like, oh wow, I had this really good idea. I think I want to talk about this on social media today.
Mm.
Can you see the difference? So that's a lot of it. And Pat, she says this whole class is really great and very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. That means a lot. It really does. It means a lot to me because I was wondering if this is really helpful to you guys. So thank you from bottom of my heart with that. But anyway, so today we worked on calibrating to overflow energy. Next week, we're going to talk about receiving support, not just praise. So we'll see you next Tuesday, August 12th, same time, same place. I want to thank you guys for being here with me today.
Just one more thing too. A lot of times we're just kind of going through this, and it's even hard for me, as I'm sure it is for you. You're hearing this for the first time, but the pauses that Lynn has in there about take a minute and think. Sometimes if you chunk it down, you go back and replay this and get to each section and maybe reread through what she said or re-listen to what she said, and then pause the video and think it through, and I think it'll make a lot more sense. I mean, even now a lot of things don't come to my head, but if I go back through this, chunk it and break it into little bite-sized pieces, it'll make more sense. And then I'll read something and I say, I didn't really understand it. I'll read it again or listen to it again, and then you go, oh, that's what that is, and this is how I'm thinking or feeling.
And it's in the context
Yeah, it's
because
in the context.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, thank you. And Valerie said that to us when we first started before we
Yes.
recorded. She said that she watches it live and she does the replay, and probably for the same reason because it helps you anchor that in better.
Yes.
Yeah, great advice, Pat says. This whole class. Oh yeah, okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. See you next week, and go out there have an amazing week. Bye bye.